Well, Ask Cindy Connector Live. Well, hello, this is your host, Cindy Lee, over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. Make sure to go to Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram and hit that follow button. And if you'd like to go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button and make sure to comment. And if you share this broadcast, I'm actually gifting you a 5-night getaway to Mexico. So simply just share this broadcast from the YouTube to Facebook. So a little bit about the show. Ask Cindy Connector Live is a way for me to share what my friends are doing, share out to the masses. About 10 years ago, one of my friends started calling me Ask Cindy Connector Live. And about 3 years ago, I started sharing what everybody was doing. And back in November of last year, I started this live podcast. If you are here on Facebook, make sure you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook so we can see your comments. You want to go there first and then go here on the broadcast. So today for National Day Calendar, it's National Brisket Day, Hamburger Day, and Road Trip Day. And stay tuned. I'm actually going to be speaking at the National Day Calendar Summit coming up in September. Make sure you go to nationaldaycalendar.com. So today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Miss Renee Gordon. And Dr. Renee Gordon, she is with loveatlast.com. That's LOV at last.com. And today we're talking about not attracting those codependent relationships. So Dr. Renee, tell us all about the codependent relationship.
Great, Cindy. Thanks so much for having me on your show today. Thanks for this fantastic opportunity. Yes, codependency with love. What that means is that people, even if they're young children, we could be affected at a very young age. And this is where our values come into play when we're very young. And there's even if you're raised in a very Johnson-centered relationship, people can still be affected and still be somewhat codependent. The more toxic the relationship is in your family, the more codependent it is when they grow up. Now, what is codependency? Codependency is not just asking, hanging on to somebody if you don't want them or if they don't want you. There's some people who just grovel in a relationship and they come in as a secondary person and having the other person as the alpha or the controller and the other person is subservient. Both people are codependent. The controller or the adversary or the bully is codependent. And that person's codependent, subservient person. So it all is in a sync together. Now, I know that sounds kind of odd, but you will never get a bully and a controller together with another bully and controller. Usually it's one person subservient than the other. And sometimes those roles balance out and they become, but it's still a toxic relationship. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's an example. Let's say a couple of girlfriends of mine, let's just say 6 of us, want to go on a cruise. All of us are married or in committed relationships. And it's a 5-day cruise, maybe out of Los Angeles, just going to Mexico for a few days with the girls, having a great time, and then coming back. I think some people would say, I would just tell them, I'm going on a cruise with my friends. That's it. I'm packing my bags. I'm leaving at 8 in the morning. Okay. I would ask my husband, not necessarily for permission, but hey, honey, I'm going to be off this Sunday for a 5-day cruise with my friend Cindy. For the Cindy, the podcaster with the bucket list show. And so it'll be Cindy and her posse, and I'm included, and we're going on a 5-day cruise. Would that be okay? And always my husband would say, of course, it's always okay. So it's not actually asking permission as it is on a respect. And I share this with a lot of people in my class and in my lecturing that I do internationally on cruise ships and at universities. There's 5 key things for a solid relationship. And it isn't just love. It's respect, acknowledgement, attention, and affection. So one of the key things is respect. Telling your spouse that I'm going to be going out of town with my girlfriends for 5 days. Of course, my husband would always say, yes, of course. But he'll also say, do you realize that the day you come back, that day after, you have to be ready for your publishers and you're having this big meeting because you're doing your book launch in front of 15,000 people. And it's like, oh my God, you're right. So he said, unless you have these certain things done, because he said, I can't do them for you, Dr. Renee, you have to do this yourself. I have to make sure my responsibility to myself, my publishers, my public relations people, and also to my family, that that's all in alignment. So the one thing I love about my husband, he reminds me of all these things because he keeps track, and I have accountability to him as well as all my other coaches. The vice versa, if he were going away with his buddies, which most likely he would never do, but if he were to, let's say, playing golf with the buddies to go to South Carolina or something like that, he would say, honey, I'm going, 5 days on a golf trip with a bunch of guys. And I would say, oh, great, have a great time. I said, is there who's going? He said, oh, so and so and so and so. So it's a bunch of guys, no spouses. And I said, have a great time. But then I would remind him, honey, you have a corporate event coming up in front of 3,000 people. Have you written your speech? Have you done this? Have you done that? Like, oh my God. Then he would tell me, oh, you're right. I've got to find other people when we meet in Atlanta and connect with all these people. And it's not done. And so I would say, we need to get that done before you leave this Sunday. And it's now Friday afternoon. There's no way you can go. He goes, you're right. There's no way I can go. So that's how we work together. Now, if he says, no, you can't go with your girlfriends because I said so, I would say something, but I don't want to say that on the radio.
Bye-bye.
We don't do the bye-bye.
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 Yes.
Okay. But because we have responsibility to ourselves as business partners, as well as husband and wife, but so much more business partners, it's my responsibility and my commitment as a business partner. And also he's my best friend to say, hey, don't forget, you've got this and this and this to complete. I can't do it for you. I can't write your speech. It would be inauthentic. And they're paying you thousands of dollars to be on stage the day after you arrive from your golf trip. And he would say to me, honey, you're right. I haven't written it. I'm not going to do it on a cruise with a bunch of guys. So he said, I'm going to cancel. I said, perfect. That's how we work. And that's all it is respect. And acknowledging the person, not necessarily that they're right, but it's going together, meaning together, moving together into the horizon together, not separate entities. We're separate entities. We don't need each other to exist on this planet. But it's so much nicer to do it with your best buddy, holding hands, swinging your hands into the horizon, and you're going through trials and tribulations together, as well as with fun things. So, and the other thing is not just acknowledgement, but attention. Knowing that I'm going to be leaving, giving him attention and lots of love, and saying, hey, honey, and then leaving little notes here and there. Does that make sense, Cindy?
Exactly.
So there's thousands of ways that in your childhood that through family may not be overly negative or abusive, but trauma does propel us to get into dysfunctional relationships. And certainly I suggest that almost all my clients, that they start from a place of healing and a journey to healing. Now, many people who are single and are looking for that perfect Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, I share with them, don't just get into a relationship because you're lonely or because this person's a doctor or a lawyer or an architect. Get into a relationship because of a deeper level, that your values and beliefs match, that they're in sync and in alignment. Now, most people say, oh, well, let me just go on Tinder or Bumblebee or Humblebee or whatever
Yeah.
the Tinder or whatever it is. Don't go on a website searching for that right person. Work on yourself first. Oh, speaking of which, I am offering to your audience members today, Cindy, 3 slots. I have 3 slots that the first 3 who come to me, and I'll give you the website. Would that be okay, Cindy, if I share the website again? It's
definitely.
Love at Last. Yeah, thank you. So it's Love at Last. So it's LUVATLAST.com. So it's L for Larry, U for under, V for victory, and then Apple, ATLAST.com. Here's an even simpler one. It's drreneelive.com. So it's DR, no dot, RENEE live, live.com. It's DRRENEE, live.com. Uh, Click in there and you'll see all the sorts of things on my podcast. Also, Cindy, I'm offering your listeners a $247 gift. It's five
Nice.
secrets to everlasting love. So whether you're single or married, there's two things for single people or people who are committed in either marriage or living together, and just a little hints and tips on how to get along with your spouse. So I do want to share something about that at the very, very end. Would that be okay?
Definitely. That's why you're here, is so
Okay,
I
great.
could share you to the masses for sure.
Okay, so before I go into going into codependency, I want to let you know that there's a lot of avenues out there for 12-step programs, not just for addictions with regards to alcohol, gambling, or sexuality, but also in codependency. And it's a disease that is emotionally, it's an immature uh, thing that people do, and it's caused by childhood trauma. And how many people do you know who seem to spend most of their time operating out of an emotional self that seems to be about, they act like they're either 12 or 15 years old because they're acting like a child. And that's the part that's the codependency. It's how you react to things, yelling, screaming, overreacting, drama. That's all very
Mhm.
immature. The more people are in control of their emotions and centered and connected, and also who meditate and who come from a place of love, that's a person who's much more able to communicate without being emotional and flaring up. So codependents, sure, or they're in a childish way, such a degree that it hammers their life over and over again, not only in their relationship, but also in their business relationships as well. If you notice that these people who have been traumatized, the main requirement that people have that they take on in their childhood is an attitude or a habit of shame. At one point, that caused you to have a fundamental core belief that there is something wrong with me, or I'm defective of some sort. Saying maybe a parent said, "Oh, you'll never be anything," or "You're no good," or "You always do something bad," or it when they do the overall thing, it really hurts a child. So it's always very important saying to a child, if you have children, saying, if you run across the street, you will be hit by a car, so be very careful, or wait for mommy and daddy to walk you across the street. Instead of saying, you're stupid. That's a general thing. And that's the trauma comes in to being codependent. So when someone concludes that they're defective when they grow up, they change themselves to compensate for the issues that they feel. And this lies in the place of codependency. So a childhood trauma, Cindy, which is caused by any situation with less, it's just not nurturing enough to that person. So a person becomes developmentally immature or codependent for that moment, and they lose themselves in that moment, and they morph into something that's sort of false, and being a people pleaser, a rebel, a perfectionist, a bully, a controller, a clown, or some sort of personality that's not real and not authentic to themselves. So here's the symptoms of this is difficulty experiencing the meaning or having high esteem for themselves, or difficulty in loving themselves. And that's the key thing, Cindy, is yourself and embracing yourself and allowing yourself to be. And then also, Cindy, forgiving yourself. So whether you're in a committed relationship or a relationship that you're looking for, stop. And you know how they say smell the roses? It's literally stop and smell the coffee and love yourself. Sometimes it's really good if you're in a coupled relationship to either take a day or a couple days with friends or whatever it is, but literally breathe and be separated for a quick moment and look at your relationship. What do I love about this person? And focus on the positive things about the person that you're with. Or if you're single, knowing to love yourself and forgiving yourself and letting go of anything negative and just writing it down, writing the things that are negative, and look at all the positive things, and then literally throw away that piece of paper that lists all your negative toxic things that you don't like about yourself. Pray about it, forgive yourself, and not have the shame or blame, and say, you know what, I'm going to start with a clean slate. When I start with that clean slate, I can start brand new and put positive things in there. So another characteristic or symptom of codependency is difficulty in owning one's own reality appropriately. That's to say, the difficulty in identifying who or knowing how to share that appropriately with others. Another one is difficulty addressing interdependency once the adult is grown and their needs and wants. That's to say that difficulty with self-care. Either they don't take a shower, or they get really fat, or they're eating the wrong things, they become very acidic, they're alcoholics, they're drug addicts. It's this lack of self-care because of lack of self-esteem. So the other one is difficulty in experiencing and expressing one's own reality in moderation. As I said earlier, that's when you're spinning out of control, drinking a lot, using a lot of street drugs, and or just even shopping as a shopaholic, or a lot of illicit drugs or sexuality. You know, watching porn every day, or over sex where you need sex 3 times a day. That's a lot. But it also depends, So the point that I'm saying is these are just in addition to some of these symptoms that I want to share with everyone. And in thinking that you can reflect on how codependents think, other people's behavior is a reason why they're unable to have a healthy relationship. So these are the 5 symptoms that come from the core problem, which is bruised relationships that they have. And some of them, this is all the negative parts, it's the negative control. So codependents try to control others by telling them who they ought to be, or allow others to control them, telling them who they should be. A lot of codependents resent other people, or they blame other things instead of taking responsibility. And they try to protect themselves to regain that self-esteem, but the anger also deepens, and then they have resentment. So all these are negative feelings. Once you get rid of this and really look at yourself, or come to someone like myself who can help them, what we do is empty out all that negative toxicity and put in positive things. So getting rid of shame, blame, jealousy, control, bullying, get rid of all that. And the other side is putting in love, joy, compassion, passion, enthusiasm, love, and just a lot of passion into the other side. All you're going to have is a blossoming relationship, not just in your relationship that you have with your future spouse, if you're dating, or the person that you're living with, or your spouse that you live with now. You're going to have much more love within yourself, and also people at work. Your associates, your colleagues would see a different person. Many of my clients who come to me as a single person not only find their class, but they get a raise at work, a higher position, because people around them see not that they're just in love, but they're much more joyous to be around and happier. Also, too, they're not miserable, but the place of coming from a place of loving themselves first. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So I have 1 minute left on the show. Do you have any kind of
Okay.
specials or promos?
Well, one of the things is, like I said, go to loveatlast.com. It's loveatlast.com. Or the other one, you can get a lot of my live podcasts at drreneelive.com. And that's DRRENEELIVE, drreneelive.com. And in there are the 5 secrets to everlasting love. And the value of that is $247. Like I said, I only have 3 slots available for your audience members for a complimentary evaluation. I'll be happy to help them. And my phone number is also in the website as well. If you can talk to my assistant, or call, schedule something on my agenda. And Cindy, can I share one thing that will be helpful for spouses or people living together?
Definitely.
How about the 5 secrets? Right. So it's not just love, but respect, acknowledgement, attention, and affection. That's whether it's yourself, you're a single person, or with someone who you love at home. And the best way to get along with your spouse or the significant other that you live with at home is saying, yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear.
It depends.
Okay.
Not always yes,
I guess
dear.
it isn't always yes, dear. I guess that comes from the guys, right?
Exactly. So I'm going to pop you in the green room, and let's look at a schedule to get you back on the show sometime this summer.
Okay.
And one last tip before I pop you in the green room.
Yes, one of the things is love yourself first. That's the most important thing. Loving yourself. Now, that doesn't mean looking in the mirror and being vain or being selfish. It means loving yourself and forgiving yourself and saying it's okay and literally connecting with your inner child. When you connect with your inner child, you'll feel that, oh, and now I get it. Your mind and your heart will link together in alignment. And so you don't have to try to correct the other person. Love yourself and love the person who you're with just the way they are and being authentic. That's the most important thing. Being authentic and loving yourself. And love and relationships are the only things that interest you. Keep that relationship alive and thriving. The best thing to do as well is do a lot of writing and especially write in a gratitude journal. Whether it's a small thing like getting the right parking space or loving on your spouse and make sure you thank them for any little thing. Like Cindy, if your boyfriend is emptying the trash, make sure you acknowledge him and say, "Thank you, honey, for emptying the trash." And vice versa, you made a nice, delicious dinner because I know you're a great cook, and he should also tell you, "Oh, honey, that was such a delicious dinner. Thank you so much." But acknowledging that person, even if they're fixing the bed, picking up socks, any little thing, it's people love to feel significant and important, and they are they mean something, and acknowledgement goes a long, long way.
Definitely. So I'm going to pop you in the green room. Thank you so much for coming. Have a fabulous Friday, and I'll see you there in just 1 minute.
Okay, I'll stay in the
Thank
green room.
you.
Thanks so much, Cindy. Have a great weekend.
Oh,
Bye,
you're
everyone.
welcome.
God bless.
Well, there you go, guys. Make sure that you go to Dr. Renee's website. You could actually check it here in the chat. And then she'll be posting some stuff here a little bit later of some of the stuff we talked about today. And as always, think of 5 people every single day to express gratitude. When you're out and about, compliment those that cross your path. Make those 5 phone calls every single day and subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure that you go to Ask Cindy Connector Live. If you are sharing this broadcast, actually, you will get a 5-day Mexico vacation. So this is Cindy over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. And next I have my friend Eric, and we're talking about follow-up and the close. Shaka, baby.